On The Tonight Show, when it went network, no. What they did was make some suggestions, why they bothered with suggestions at all when the show was already a hit, and the very success of it is what led them to put it on the network. But I can understand that. A network is your toy when you're the boss, and I guess you can't resist tinkering with your toys. Also, I had learned enough about life at that time never to close my mind to any suggestions. You must always entertain them. Then later you can say, hey, that's great, we'll do that, or that is stupid, I'll fight that to the death. And unfortunately, the few practical suggestions they made were in that latter range. I'll be specific. The first shock, at least in terms of memos and meetings, came to us when they said, now we'd like to add I think they mentioned 3-minute segment each night. So I'm waiting for the end of the sentence. I thought, maybe 3 minutes of great stuff. What is it? They said ski condition reports. And Billy Harback and I and the others looked at each other and kept our faces deliberately blank. It was really a dumb idea. So I said in my responding memo, have you gentlemen done any research as to what percentage of the American people give a damn about skiing? I said, it's a lovely sport. I have nothing against it. More people should ski, but very few do. And even of those, on any given night, they're not too likely to be going skiing. So what do they care whether there's light powder at Stowe or something at Steamboat Springs, So nevertheless, it was their network, and for, I don't remember how long, it seems to me about 2 weeks, poor Gene Rayburn, who was our announcer, actually stood in front of a blackboard and gave ski condition report. Now this would come out of half an hour of screaming comedy and hot jet, and suddenly the audience in the studio was, is he talking about snow? Who gave a damn? Well, they finally realized they'd made a dumb suggestion, and we dropped that. The other suggestion was not that dumb. Abstractly, it's not a bad idea, but in practical terms, it was a bad idea. Suggestion number 2 was we will have a resident critic, sort of like Gene Shalit in the morning, and he will come on and give you little 2-minute reviews of all the great Broadway shows that open. That sounds like a good idea, but I had to actually point out to these gentlemen who were running the major network in the world, in the great city of New York, that the great Broadway opening nights are few and far between. Something opens almost every night, and it's pretty lousy. But how many nights are there when Oklahoma opened, or South Pacific, or, from here to whatever? So, nevertheless, they assigned a critic to the show, a very nice fellow. I think his name was Bob Joseph, if I'm not mistaken. He was a personal friend, a social friend. But charming camera work was not his area of expertise. He was basically a writer, a good critic, as far as I ever knew. But his personality was not ideally adapted to television, and most nights he had lightweight fare to talk about, and many a night nothing whatever to talk about. So again, there was about a 2 or 3 week embarrassing period, and then they dropped that suggestion. But I knew that they had in those days men I wish they had more of today when they could really use it. Program practices and whatever. They're the censors. They don't like to use that word, but that's what they are. And I think we need them now. Where are they when we need them? Because in those days, nobody ever tried to say a 4-letter word on television or show frontal nudity or anything else that they do now. And consequently, I guess the fellows with the blue pencils occasionally, just to justify their salaries, really used to come up with some dumb suggestions, but very little with our show. First of all, not that much of it was written. And sometimes what censoring there was had to do with commercial considerations. For example, if your sponsor was Chesterfield, nobody could say, well, that was certainly lucky, even if you're talking about a lucky stick or something. So there was a little of that, but that's understandable. Show business is a business, and I never argued about that. I thought, okay, we won't say lucky on this show.